of your busy days. My name is Robin Putnam, and I work for the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. And with me today, we have Mayor LaChapelle, we have the Undersecretary Edward Palesky, and we also have 3 detectives from the Easthampton Police Department, Detective Andrew Bollier, Detective Mark Papalarsi, and Detective Eric Alexander, my goodness. But we're going to start this all off with the mayor, if you would like to begin.
Good afternoon. I had to check the clock and see that we were 3 minutes into the afternoon. Thank you to everyone who is joining us on the webinar, but also on Facebook Live, and those who will be watching it after the fact. Also, thank you to Undersecretary Ed Palesky for joining us. I think it's a great reminder that the Baker-Polito administration is always willing to work with Western Mass. They don't forget us. And I'm really happy about that. As well, thanks to our 3 detectives who are dealing with what we're talking about every single day. This isn't new. And especially thank you to Robin Putnam for reaching out and again, thinking about Central and Western Mass and getting this information out. I encourage folks to go back to the Facebook page of the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. And just so you can share the Facebook link, we'll be sharing it on the city sites. If something comes up or you have something on your mind right away concerning the topics that you're going to hear about in this webinar, or something else that doesn't seem right, something you get in the mail, something on email, even a text, please know that you can call the mayor's office and we can connect you with the appropriate state agencies, as well as helping you file a complaint with the police department. You can also call the police department, who can walk you through next steps, as well as take the information so we can try to trace it or look for patterns. As well, you can also give a call to our personnel department. So we have heard folks getting communications from municipalities directly around, past employment, or there's a fine due, and the personnel department in City Hall can help track that out to you, track out with you. And of course, DA Sullivan also has a fraud and scam department to help you connect with police, but also the state to help with what you are wondering about or what has happened. Before I hand it over to the Undersecretary, I think it's, as I look through the curriculum and talk to Robin about this series of information and getting the word out, I think about it almost like the precautions that we take for COVID-19 to suppress the spread and infection rate. Is the best way to look at the topic is it's prevention. And you're going to hear a lot of suggestions and ways to check proactively what an ask or a phone call might be about that you get, and get it right at that point and still report it. So everyone knows that it's going on and we can track that activity. The technology is a wonderful thing, but it changes very fast. I think that folks like myself don't keep track of all of that. And it's always better. If something feels not right or odd, check in with, either Consumer Affairs or with your local police department, mayor's office, or even the DA to see if it's really what they purport it to be. That said, I will hand it over to the Undersecretary for additional comments.
Thanks, Mayor. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Ed Palesky. I'm the Undersecretary for the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulations. I'd like to start by thanking Mayor Nicole LaChapelle, excuse me, and the City of Easthampton for partnering with us on this virtual consumer protection panel. We have a terrific panel today, including the mayor and her team, Easthampton Police Detectives again, Eric Alexander, Andrew Bollier, and Mark Popolarczyk, and of course our own Robin Putnam, who is our Manager of Community Outreach and Events at the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, or OCABR as we call it. It seems fitting to host this event during Financial Literacy Month. It was designated as such by Congress in 2004 as a time to focus on how to establish and maintain healthy financial habits. This is a topic I believe that is very important and for which we offer numerous resources. In addition to consumer-related matters, my office oversees and supports 5 regulatory agencies. So I'll just talk a little bit about those quickly. First, the Division of Banks. The division examines state-chartered banks and credit unions. The division is a proponent of financial literacy and funds a grant program in partnership with the State Treasurer's Office of Economic Empowerment. That's a board that I sit on with Treasurer Goldberg. Specifically, the program funds statewide credit for life fairs at high schools across the Commonwealth. The Division of Insurance, the division regulates the insurance industry in the Commonwealth. And since the start of the pandemic, Commissioner Gary Anderson and the DOI has issued over 30 bulletins specific to COVID-19 on everything from telemedicine to urging automobile insurance carriers to issue discounts to customers for driving less frequently. The Division of Professional Licensure, the DPL oversees 28 boards of registration, the Office of Public Safety and Inspections, and the Office of Private Occupational School Education. And through its boards and offices, it regulates more than 580,000 individuals, businesses, and schools to engage in over 150 trades and professions, everything from cosmetologists to barbers, to plumbers and electricians, to real estate professionals and veterinarians. The Division of Standards, which is your weights and measures, ensures compliance with the weights and measures of packaged food goods, scanner pricing accuracy, and the measurement of fuel and auto body shops to eliminate fraudulent practices. And finally, last but not least, certainly the Department of Telecommunications and Cable, which regulates 263 telecommunications providers and eight cable providers. The Office of Consumer Affairs also manages a few core programs, including the Home Improvement Contractor Program and its associated arbitration program and the Guarantee Fund program, the state's lemon laws, and data breach notification. We also operate a consumer hotline Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And you can call us at 617-973-8787 with any consumer questions. And I believe we'll have that number available. We believe that an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. To that end, we produce a monthly newsletter, we post blogs, and issue consumer alerts when we hear of scams and other fraudulent activity that could impact you, the consumer. And finally, we partner with organizations like the BBB and the AARP to do events like this all over the state. Now it gives me great pleasure to hand things over to my colleague at OCABR, Robin Putnam, who will moderate the panel from here. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Robin?
Robin, I think you're muted.
Sorry, there we are. As the Undersecretary mentioned, we do have a consumer hotline, and just to let you know, it is not automated. You will actually get a human being who will answer the phone. And I think that's something I always try to let people know, simply because sometimes it's challenging to get somebody in the the state and the different offices, and how do you get a hold of people? So if you call us Monday through Friday, you will actually get a human being. If it's crazy busy, leave us a message and we will call you back as soon as possible. And I unfortunately have to make this quick question to you, everybody, but just so you know, we are never going to call you out of the blue, and we're not going to request information, personal information from you. And I do mention that because there is someone out there from time to time who loves to impersonate our office. And we'll call consumers and say, we need to update our information. Can I get your social security number? So we will never ask for that. If you get that kind of call, excuse me. And just as a reminder, we are streaming live on Facebook and we are recording this. And it will be available on our Facebook page afterwards. So I usually begin these conversations with talking about the phone scams because they are quite prevalent. And one of the biggest issues right now is everybody's home, and we've been home for months. And we're not quite through this pandemic, and the scammers know that. The scammers know that we're home. They know that we're doing a lot of online shopping, whether it's through Amazon or Walmart or wherever. And they have really started to send text messages, and they'll disguise their phone number. There are apps that you can download, and I can disguise my own phone number, and it might pop up on your screen that says police department, Walmart, Amazon. So a lot of these text messages are going after consumers and saying very simply, it could be a lot of different things, but a lot of times they'll say, this is Amazon or FedEx, and we have a package. Could you please click here to verify your address? Or this is the state of Massachusetts. We would like to sign you up for a COVID shot. So you just need to be very wary of text messages that come in. I've received a few of them. I just ignore them. But it's just something that we all should be aware of. And what I was thinking also too is with the text messages, really the big issue is it's not necessarily answering it. It's when you're clicking on that link, that's actually putting malware onto your phone or your however else you're going to be using it. And that's when the issues really start, is that they're getting into your phone, and it's quite frankly, it's a smartphone. It's a mini computer. So they like to infiltrate. They'll try to get all of your banking information, social security number, you name it, they're going to do it. And that's one of the biggest issues. But before I keep going, I wanted to thank the Undersecretary Palesky and Mayor LaChapelle for coming and being part of this conversation. I know that you guys both have very busy days, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. And I put the contact numbers in the chat.
Wonderful. And I will do that as well. I will put our phone numbers as well, just when somebody else wants to speak as well. But I guess I could turn this over to the detectives. Are there different things that you are hearing scam-wise that may be specific to Easthampton, or maybe it's not?
Well, thank you, Robin. Good morning. I'd like to, I think they stepped off, but I'd like to thank Undersecretary Palesky and Mayor LaChapelle for encouraging this collaboration between the two agencies on this important topic. We've seen a number of scams, typically, I guess, to go over a list, lottery scams, IRS scams, utility scams with your power company or electric company, the grandchild scam. So we've seen a number of them, and ultimately they will try to manipulate you in any way, shape, or form to get your personal and or financial information. And so it's not one particular. I mean, now is around the time of tax season, so that is a popular one. But there's been a number of them, and there's always different ones that are coming up specific to COVID or the vaccine, getting the shot. So I don't want to say any one overwhelmingly more than the other, but kind of just a wide range.
Sure, understandable. So it was a question that came up. What do you do if you have clicked the link? What I always suggest to people is everybody should be updating all of their equipment all the time, whether it's a laptop, a cell phone, you name it. Everybody should always be doing those security updates. If you're not a very techie person and it kind of makes you nervous to do that, I would suggest getting a techie person in your life. And you can also when you do those updates, it just helps to keep the phone safer. If you're not sure, I like to go to the Apple store. I have a lot of Apple products, and usually I'm a little concerned at how to fix it. So I will go there directly and just say, hey, I think I've done something incorrectly. Can you help me? Can you help me do an update? Inevitably, it's usually some very young teenager, and in 3 clicks has fixed the problem, and I feel a little foolish. But I think if you think you may have done something like that on any of your devices, reach out. I know that Best Buy has the Geek Squad. There has to be something in Easthampton. I'm sure of it. Everybody's using technology. And I think there's one more question that just came in. Yep. Oh. Just answer that one. But in regards to scams and fraud, I really would mention also all of the emails that you may or may not get, emails and text messages, phone messages. If someone leaves you, if they're impersonating somebody else to get you to react, you just have to be very careful with what kind of information you're going to give out to somebody. I always say, never give out any personal information about who you are over the phone or through an email unless you have reached out to that entity first. Because these scammers are getting really, really good, and they're not using the same old tactics as, hey, you've won $1 million, click here, because they know that most times no one's going to think that. They're not going to believe it. So, but what they will do is they'll impersonate, say, your bank or your credit card company, and they will find little teeny pieces of information about you, whether they find it online or maybe you threw out an ATM receipt. So they take all these little pieces of information, and it's basically called social engineering. And what they do is they use those pieces against you. So for example, they might say, hi, this is Sarah. I'm calling from your bank. We noticed some discrepancies in your accounts. Were you at Best Buy trying to buy a $3,000 TV last night? And can you verify that the last 4 digits of your account, and they'll read it off to you correctly. And can you just verify that your mother grew up in County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland? Now you're thinking, wow, this may be the bank. They've given me all of this personal information, but what you don't realize is that fraudster got that information online. All of that information can be found online, especially if there's been a recent data breach. There's hundreds of data breaches that are happening all the time. So those little pieces of information are available. So what they'll do is they'll say, this is Sarah, can you verify some information? You'll think it's truly the bank calling you, and you will respond, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I wasn't at Best Buy. I was not trying to buy a $3,000 TV. What's going on? Don't worry, we took care of it. We did not let the charge go through. Could you just verify your full account number for us? And can you verify your full social security number? And we'll get this fixed up for you. So if you've received that call, I would highly suggest, even if you think it might be your bank or your credit card company, because of all of the apps that you can download and scramble your own phone number, there's no way to 100% to know who's really calling you. So I suggest calling your bank directly, calling your credit card directly. On the back of your ATM card or your credit card, there's an 800 customer service number. Call that and say, look, I just got this crazy call or a text message or an email. Are you trying to get a hold of me? Is there something wrong with my accounts? That way, 100% you are calling the bank. And you can give your personal information, the security questions over the phone, because you're calling Bank of America, Visa, doesn't matter. It's just, that's one of the things that we really have to be very careful with, is what kind of information you're giving out. Because these fraudsters are so good, and they love to now that we're still in COVID, they are, and in tax season, they're going to start, a little bit harder. Let's say, because they know that people are at this point are a little anxious. They want to get the vaccine. They want to get their taxes in on time. And now that the tax season has been pushed to May, know that they're going to start looking for your information a little bit harder. They might say, drive by and look into your mailbox. So it's illegal to actually go into somebody else's mailbox unless you are a mail carrier. But just know that from time to time, a scammer will try to go to your mailbox and steal all of your forms, because they know right now everybody should be getting all of their financial information, their information from their work, and it's going to be coming through the mail. So I think if you want to be really strict with yourself, make sure to monitor your mailbox. It sounds a little silly, but there are people who would love to steal anything, whether it's just your tax, any of those forms. So it's just one of those things you have to be on the lookout for. I think if you can, try to file your taxes ASAP. Don't let information just sit there for yourself. It's just one of those things that's going to keep everybody a little bit safer. I would also suggest that everybody should be shredding any personal information that they have to get rid of. It's not enough to simply rip it in half and put it in 2 different trash cans, because people love to steal trash. Though it sounds crazy, they will go through trash. They will, and they're looking for lots of little teeny pieces, and they'll keep track of that. That being said, before you put, say, an old catalog into the recycling bin, if you get that catalog regularly and you have purchased things from that catalog, usually on the back is your name and address, and sometimes an account number, as well as account number inside. So just be aware of that information is available too. Gentlemen, would you care to kind of chime in with your thoughts?
Sorry about that. So
That's okay.
one thing I wanted to add when you were talking about companies calling you and explaining something, I actually spoke with a member of a financial institution in town recently, and they told me that they don't take offense where if they are calling for a legitimate reason, a customer or a client, and they hang up on them, to call them right back. And they actually encourage it, because that is any scam artist, somebody trying to impersonate the bank or any business can make it seem legit, like they are that actual institution. So don't be afraid. Somebody calls you, they tell you the reason for the call, hang up on them, get the number, take your time, relax. It's not like it's a rush that you need to get back to them, but find the number of, say it's like, for instance, in Easthampton, Bank ESB. Get the number to Bank ESB, call them back and say, hi, I just received a call from the bank regarding whatever it may be. I got disconnected. Can I speak with a representative? And if it is legit, they're going to know that why you're calling and what you're calling about, and they're going to help you out. So I just wanted to add that little piece in there regarding that, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I have been called by my own Visa credit card from time to time, because I travel so much in Massachusetts for work, and they thought that was a little crazy. They're like, well, we know you don't live in Easthampton. Why are you trying to get gas? And they turn off my credit card, and then they call me and text me, and I know I didn't answer the phone, so I would just pull out my credit card, call 800 customer service number, and they're our bank and financial institutions, they are monitoring us very, they're watching us like a hawk, quite honestly. They know what time of day you usually shop. They know how much you usually spend, where you shop. It sounds a little creepy, but they're on the lookout to try to keep you safer. So if they see something that's out of the ordinary, okay, no, she doesn't live in Easthampton. Why is she trying to buy a $3,000 TV 4 hours from where she lives? It doesn't make sense. They're most likely going to put a stop to the credit card, call you, text you, try to get a hold of you to verify that you really are where your credit card is. And I have to say too, is credit card information is being picked up and can be picked up easily. If you use a gas pump, if you, there have been data breaches where lots and lots of credit card information has been stolen. So I just think if you're going to use a credit card versus a debit card, I would try to use a credit card more often. If someone gets a hold of your information, if it's your debit card and they figure out your PIN, then they can, in theory, drain your bank account. Now, that doesn't always happen. I had a friend who it did happen. She was at a gas pump, and they cleaned her bank account out in under an hour. It took her 4 months to get the cash back in. It's a lot of work. So if you're going to get scammed, unfortunately, let it be a credit card. You can call Visa and say, look, I don't recognize the top 10 charges. These don't make sense. I want to dispute them. You're not going to be held liable to pay for them, but they'll dispute them and try to figure out what the issue is.
Robin, if I could just
Sure,
add
yes.
that. I know Lieutenant Popularczyk has actually investigated a few different instances in Easthampton where gas skimmers and ATM skimmers have been located at area gas stations and ATM machines. The best way to think of it is a credit card. It's not your money that's getting stolen. And so while you'll have to file an affidavit and work with the credit card company to prove that it was fraudulent and it wasn't actually you that did the charge, it's not coming out of your hard-earned money that you have in your debit or your checking account, and it's a little less stressful. But I can, and maybe Lieutenant Popularczyk wants to talk about it now or at a later time, but we've encountered it here in Easthampton and have discovered these skimming devices.
Good afternoon. Yeah, we've had a couple instances of gas skimmers, but I think the most important thing today, if anything, it would be to monitor your bank accounts and your credit card, which would be putting alerts on both. And so you would get alerted if somebody did a $1 transaction or $100 transaction. You'd be notified either by text, mail, or email right away. And you'll already know that something's not right. And I would add to the fact that if you suspect that you may have done something like clicked on a link or something, I would start changing my passwords and I would check my credit report. And you are entitled to a free one a year. I think it's annualcreditreport.com, and you can check it to see if there's anything unusual on your account. Those would be some things that I check regularly, and that would prevent a lot of the fraud. I think you stay on top of stuff. I wanted to add that. So
Sure, absolutely. I think you bring up a great point with checking your credit reports. It's very easy. It's kind of a boring read, but when you go through it line by line to make sure that whatever is listed there does belong to you. Make sure your name is spelled correctly, date of birth, you name it. If there is something that's incorrect, you can dispute that with the credit bureau. And I would take it another step forward, is to try to, when you have done that, if everything looks great, I would freeze it. It doesn't take much time. It'll probably take you under an hour to do it. It's not going to affect your current lines of credit. What it will do is, if a fraudster gets a hold of your social security number, it can make it next to impossible for them to open up a new line of credit. That being said, if you need to open up a new line of credit, maybe you're going to get a mortgage or buy a car, you can unfreeze it. It takes maybe 24 hours. It's not very long. So you can have that unfrozen, and then they can run your report, and you can with the financial institution. It's just, there have been so many data breaches that have occurred since COVID has started. So a lot of information is out there, floating around on the dark web. So you want to just make sure if you're monitoring your accounts, you'll see if something looks a little crazy. I would also, when you're monitoring your credit card bills and your other statements, look for the $1, $2 charge that doesn't seem to make sense. For example, maybe you only go to CVS and all of a sudden there's a $2 charge at Brooks Pharmacy, or vice versa. That should seem a little sketchy. That should be a little bit of a red flag for yourself. Because a lot of fraudsters will make much more money scamming 1,000 people once a month of $2, as opposed to scamming one person of $1,000. You'll notice that, your bank will notice that, the financial institution will notice that, and they won't let that charge go through. But a $2 charge will go right under the radar. So if you see something like that, I would highly suggest contacting your bank or your financial institution and looking at that. And if need be, change your passwords. Everybody should be changing your passwords every 4 months in general, which usually people hate to hear that, but we are very known for having very weak passwords. We are known for recycling passwords, using your your child's first names, street that you grew up on, favorite color, you name it, and then adding a 1, 2, 3. The fraudsters know that. And sometimes passwords also are involved in data breaches. So if you have received a data breach notification saying that your information has been compromised, I highly suggest go through all of your passwords, change them, make them long, make them crazy and different. It's just one of those things that will help keep you a lot safer, I think.
Robin, can I
Sure.
expand on the credit?
Yes, of
So
course.
if you're gonna freeze your accounts, which is a great idea, you have to do each one individually, all three of them, not just one of them.
Yeah.
So that's something to know. If you're going to do that, each one has to be done individually. And I have frozen my account. My accounts are frozen to the credit part, and it's very simple to deactivate and activate it. So that's an excellent thing to do to protect yourself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've already been involved in 2 different data breaches, so I know about my information's floating around on the dark web. So yeah, I froze my information, and I just recently got a mortgage, so completely forgot that I had frozen everything and I didn't get the mortgage. And he said, I can't get in. And I'm like, oh, that's because I froze it. So I said, give me 10 minutes and I'll unfreeze everything. So it really honestly doesn't take much time. And I use myself as a perfect example, but it's just another thing that we all can do. I think as a resource, I always suggest to people, if you have a question, a comment, a concern, or something doesn't seem right, you can and should talk to your local police department. That's why they're there. I always find the local number and don't call 911. But you have that, they're there for you. That's what their job is. They can look at things, they can investigate, they can help walk you through something. It's just, I think sometimes people, when they are involved in something fraudulent, they get nervous. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. You can always call our office Monday through Friday. You can report it to the Federal Trade Commission. It's just you really need to reach out and not be afraid, because there is a little bit of a taboo with talking about fraud, because no one wants to think, did I fall for something? Am I losing my mind? Am I crazy? Should I not tell anybody? And I suggest, do tell somebody. Talk to your family, talk to the local police department and say, hey, something doesn't seem right. I may have fallen for something. Can you help me?
You bring up a good point, Robin. We've discussed stuff with your credit and freezing it and putting alerts and everything, but I think an important thing to kind of go over, and even if it seems rather as if whether common sense or just you should know about it, and that is, how do you prevent being scammed? And it doesn't matter your age. People say that the elderly get scammed more easily, and they're tricked into things, but that's definitely not the case. Especially here in Easthampton, we have had, it doesn't matter the age range, we've had different scams. And so I think to discuss whether it be tips or tricks in terms of avoiding being scammed is super important. And so one thing I always like to discuss in presentations that I've given in the past is, we talked about the banks calling you about something that's happened, but oftentimes that shouldn't be the case. For instance, a recent case, Apple, they contacted a resident of Easthampton and said that their computer has been compromised. But do you know how many people subscribe to have an Apple ID or have an account with Apple? They're not going to just pick you out of the crowd and call you and say that you've been compromised. You're going to need to call them if you think something happened to your computer. Unfortunately, they agreed and thought that something was up and allowed that individual on the other end of the phone, which came up as Apple on their caller ID, and it was used with a voice over internet protocol, so they could disguise their number. They were granted access into that person's actual computer, and they remoted in and started manipulating their bank accounts, and the person was watching hundreds and hundreds of dollars get removed from their checking account before their eyes. And they can't just unplug their computer and it's all over, because they no longer have control of that computer. So one tip or suggestion, somebody shouldn't be calling you to tell you that something can be fixed. If you think there's an issue, you're going to need to call that agency. or that, say Apple, for example. Another thing that I want to bring up is how quick, and they always try to get you to do something so fast. You can slow down, take a breath. I'll go back to the grandkid scam, for example. The grandkid scam, we've had it recently here in town, where individual gets a call and says that their grandchild was involved in a car crash in Florida, and in order to prevent them from being arrested and being responsible for the damages to the car, which was a rental, they needed to submit gift cards to the rental car company. And they time is of the essence. They're roadside and they're going to be arrested. So you need to go down to your local Walgreens, CVS, and pick up $400 or $500 gift cards to Walmart or Apple Play or whatever, and scratch off the back number and relay those numbers to us. Once we confirm receipt, then your grandchild is all set. Well, the trouble is, and what I think people just get caught up in, it seems so believable and so real. The scam individual will do their research, go online and find out about your family members if they're on vacation through Facebook or any other avenue, and make it seem super believable. They do their research. They're very smart. But I think the one thing to remember is gift cards are for gifts. Gift cards are not for payment. So if it's, well, unless you are actually going and making the payment yourself somewhere, but they are not designed to, give out as a payment over the phone when somebody calls you about something. So just a little something to keep in mind. And out of everything there, and then I'll turn it back over to you, is, like I said already, slow down. It's not a rush if you think something seems a little off, it probably is. If your instincts are telling you that this seems suspicious, trust your instincts, call a family member or a friend, or honestly, call the police department, your local police department. We'll be able to guide you along the way, and it could save you some headache with either financially or with your personal identity information.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Sergeants. My guess is that the police department does not take gift cards as a form of payment.
No, that's that is not something that we're in the business of. So
yeah, that the grandparent scam really is a little scary because their tactic is to make you so nervous that you just react. And as Eric points out, you just have to take a second and go, wait a minute, does this make sense? And you mentioned something about Facebook. If you're going on vacation, post your pictures when you get home. Don't tell the entire planet that you're going to Bermuda for 3 weeks, because then the police department is going to get very involved, because what happens if someone wants to go and burglarize your house? I just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be very careful what kind of information you're posting online. There's a lot of overposting, unfortunately. There is one question that just came in. What is the difference between credit card fraud and identity theft? I'll answer it. Credit card fraud, quite honestly, is they're just lifting your credit card, and they're trying to go shopping, do a little shopping spree. They're not getting information about who you are physically, your social security number, any of that. They're just getting access to your credit card or debit card, so your financial information. But identity theft is when someone steals your social security number, or more of your personal information, like your passport information. They're going to use that information to be a new you in a different state or a different town.
And then they may open up a credit card in your name, and that's where the identity theft steps in.
Yes.
And now you're getting charges on your credit report, and you're making these charges that you know nothing about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and Eric, you brought up a great point. Fraud and identity theft, it's not just for the seniors, all age groups, all demographics. And what people don't realize too is children who are 18 and younger are 52 times more likely to have their social security number stolen and abused, because the fraudster knows that mom and dad probably will never run a credit check on little Susie, who's 3. Why would you? She's 3. She shouldn't have a credit. But the issue is too, AARP had a great article a couple of years ago. There was a breach of a daycare center, and they made it look like they were stealing pieces of, computer equipment, etc. But what they didn't realize is the fraudsters got a hold of the social security numbers of 6 children. Fast forward 16 years later, one of the little girls went to go get her license. They ran her credit. She had 6 DUIs in different states, and it took 4 months to clear her name. So if you have children or grandchildren, I highly suggest you do a credit report check for those too as well, and freeze that, because a lot of people don't think, oh, kids, why would we go after kids? It's a little scary. Another question came in. Is it my fault I have identity theft? Am I able to stop it? Is it my fault? So it's definitely not your fault at all. It's a lot of people the reason why a lot of people don't want to talk about identity theft, because they feel like they've done something wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. It's the fraudster who has gone after your information and you didn't realize it. So it's not your fault at all. Things you can do to stop it. Yes, we've talked about a lot of different things that, little tips and tricks, monitoring your accounts, freezing your credit, really monitoring your accounts. There are skimming devices wherever there is a credit card. So it's not your fault, but you can stop it, and you can ask the police department for some help. Call our office, call the Federal Trade Commission. There are ways to help alleviate that. Let's see, are there any other questions coming in? Gentlemen, do you want to chime in, or are there anything we have missed today?
I would say, Robin, just a side note about, we're talking about different people getting scammed. It's not just people, it could be businesses as well. And we've had it, the electric company calling businesses, telling them that they're shutting electricity off if you don't go down to Walmart or something and get gift cards. And the same thing, and the businesses are panicking because they think their electricity is going to get shut off. So like I said before too, like Eric said, take your time. The time is on your side. They want you to rush and make a rash decision. And that's something I would call the electric company myself, or call the direct number. Don't call the number that they give you, because that's all part of the scam.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
and it seems like everything we're saying here is intended to scare you. To go back to the previous question, it is definitely not your fault. This can happen to anybody, and this is kind of why we do this. So in hopes that we provide just that little nugget of information that the next time, because inevitably it's going to happen where everybody, I'm sure, on this Zoom, this webinar today, is going to have somebody attempt to scam them. It's just something, if you get a little bit out of it today, to just keep in the back of your mind to prevent it from happening. But our big thing is obviously recovering. We can help you and provide the resources for recovery, but we're offering these tips to stop it from even happening. But the sad reality is it does happen, and there are ways to get you out of it. It's just time consuming. And it's stressful. So I don't know if anybody has to add to that, or there are any questions regarding that. But obviously, if you do become a victim of identity theft or fraud, the biggest thing is calling that company first. That gets the ball rolling. And then, as we said and discussed in the other, earlier, that calling the credit report companies and placing those alerts and whatnot. But everybody just gets so nervous about everything, that they're getting calls and they're getting texts and they're getting, just take a step back, and there's a good chance you'll avoid being scammed if you just slow down.
Agree 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just, you've got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, do you think my grandchild really has been arrested? Maybe you should just call that grandchild or that family member and say, I just got this strange call. Is little Johnny okay? And you could just make that simple call will solve the problem. It's just, it is about taking the time, because that's what the biggest tactic is. Fear. They're trying to make you fearful. They're trying to make you just respond and not think, just react. Or they'll even, they'll say, don't call the police. They can't help you. Well, yeah, actually the police department can help you. Absolutely. 100%. But they want to put the fear.
That would be a dead giveaway. If somebody says don't call the police, that should be your first call.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Let's see, are there any other questions that came in? And then do you gentlemen have any other things that you would like to mention? Just about up to 45 minutes.
I can say that if the stuff that we've presented today and haven't been able to write it down, or you have questions, I know on our website, easthamptonpd.com, there is on the toolbar, there is the resources tab and then identity theft. And that kind of gives a step-by-step. We have a link to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission website, where you can get started with recovering from identity theft. And then there's also an identity theft packet that we have in-house, or I also believe available online. And it kind of just gives you a step-by-step the process to unfortunately work your way out of being a victim of identity theft.
That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, our office actually, www.mass.gov/consumer. We have a whole page on identity theft and different links. And I highly suggest just going and take a quick look if you need something. And then taking another step forward, if you need to call us, please feel free to call us Monday through Friday. We are happy to walk you through, help you understand what's going on, and give you tips and get you your identity, your identity fixed. But there are options. There are lots of great entities out there that can be very, very helpful for you. And if you want, we can come up and speak to your group if you're interested. The police department has done that from time to time as well. There is, Eric just added the Easthampton PD website. I will do the same for ours. If there are no further questions, I want to thank everybody for being here. Detectives, thank you so much. I know that you have very busy lives, very greatly appreciated. And this will be put on our Facebook page. If you didn't catch the whole thing, you can actually go right to our Facebook page. And I thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you.